Hello everyone, this is my middle shelf book tour, and we're going to start fast. We're going to go with Circe by Madeline Miller. I read this recently, BookTube really hyped it. I didn't actually think that much of it, but I did enjoy reading about the gods and the myths. I learnt quite a lot about them, so that was nice. We're into World War books. I've got Heroes from James Holland, which is a collection of short stories from veterans, boy soldiers of the Great War, which was really eye-opening for a war I'm much less versed on than World War II. And Fighter Boys by Patrick Bishop is a book I haven't read yet, but I'm sure I'll get round to it at some point. I've got a really knackered copy of Grimm's Fairy Tales, which had some questionable stories in there. Graham Greene's Brighton Rock, which is this kind of legendary book, and I've not read it. I will get round to it. I have read some books, I swear. Robert Louis Stevenson's Dr. Jekyll, Mr. Hyde is a hardback version of a story I read a long time ago. It's also got other stories in there, but I haven't got round to them. The First Names Mini Dictionary, just lots of suggestions for names. I keep about 4 of those books for writing stories, so I can keep up to date and on top of different names. And then at the back there I've got Stephenie Meyer's The Host, which was compelling enough to read. Like, it's a good idea and everything. There's a couple of eyebrows raising choices in there though. The Cuckoo's Calling by Robert Galbraith is obviously now known as J.K. Rowling. I thought that book was a bit basic. I read it, I suppose I enjoyed it on some level, but I'll get rid of it at some point. I think I didn't feel compelled to pick up any more of the detective story she wrote. And just at the bottom there is the Kate Atkinson Life After Life, which I was recommended to read, and then I went out and bought a Kate Atkinson book, and it was actually the wrong title, wrong book, so I'd forgotten the book title, so I ended up reading a completely different Kate Atkinson. So that'll be my second. Moving on to the middle, at the front here, I'll just start with one of the craziest books I've ever read. This is obviously Alastair Reynolds' Diamond Dogs and Turquoise Days, with its iridescent cover. It's the most sci-fi I've ever read. It's really hardcore sci-fi. I don't think... I don't want to spoil it, so I don't want to say. Okay, if you want to read sci-fi, Diamond Dogs and Turquoise Days, it's mental. And then we got Robert Jordan's The Eye of the World, Book 1 of the Wheel of Time, which I read fairly recently. I haven't got to Book 2 yet, it's on my TBR, but I really enjoyed that, so hopefully I'll get to those soon. And then the rest of this middle section is nice and easy, these 3 here. Move these out the way, and we've got another lot back there, and they're all Warhammer 40k books that I subscribe to. And they started to send them to me, and I realised that not only have I already got some, but also I just don't have the space for the amount of books they were going to send, so I had to cancel. We've got General Traveller's Advice, we don't need that. H is for Hawk is supposed to be a very good book. I mean, obviously it's an award-winning book about dealing with grief, which I'm sure I'll get to at some point. The Tao Te Ching, it's an Eastern philosophy book, lots of poetry, wise words, that kind of thing in there. And The Linguist in Me, fascinated with language, Mandarin Chinese, the Russian phrase book, Chinese book and CD, and Spanish, none of which I have more than looked at a glance, so don't ask me any questions in any languages but English. All in Fighting by W.E. Fairbairn. It's got some fascinating techniques, and some really shockingly useless ones, but really good book for any martial artist if you want to see something from the era where people used to do real hard combats. Modern Archery, that's just a kind of pamphlet of nothing. The definitive book of body language, I have read. I'm fairly good at body language and recognising it. I'm just not utterly convinced that it's definitive. That like body language means what a lot of people say it means when they think it means it. A couple of local books, which I will get round to at some point, all about the sailing barges. This Dunkirk story. There's a ship moored in Ipswich, in my hometown, and it's one of these sailing barges that went to Dunkirk and picked up soldiers and brought them home. So I have an interest in it. I used to ride past it every day on the way to work and back, and I'll get round to it at some point. At the top there we got The Return of Sherlock Holmes by Arthur Conan Doyle. I haven't read all of the original Sherlock Holmes, so reading The Return of doesn't really make sense yet, but I found it second hand, it's hardback, good condition, so I grabbed it. And we got into the philosophy section, which all these sections here are completely happenstance, not planned at all. So we've got Nietzsche's Beyond Good and Evil, which I have not read, Philosophy in Bite-Sized Chunks, which I've perused, the Philosophy of the Matrix and Philosophy, which I'm looking forward to at some point, because I got a lot of thinking out of the Matrix films. I thought they were absolutely genius. So at some point I'll get around to reading that. I'm hoping it's not some giant conspiracy book, which is a bit of a fear. But the last 3 books I've got here, one of the worst titles for books ever, Scouting for Boys by Robert Baden-Powell, the original Scoutmaster, and the other 2 books there along the line of outdoor survival and bushcraft, which is something of an interest of mine. And that actually brings us to a close. So thanks very much for watching, and I'll see you next time.